Hi, my name is Vanessa, and I run a lot of weight loss challenges. Actually, it's an ongoing weight loss marathon. I'm going to explain that more to you now, but the first thing you need to know is that it is possible. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter whether you've had children, it certainly doesn't matter whether you're a cesarean. I'm 45, I have 2 children, and I've had cesareans for both. Okay, I know that I have an active lifestyle already, but even if you don't, doesn't mean it's not possible. It's in your mind, and it's also a self-limiting belief system that you have allowed yourself to perpetuate over a period of time. It is now time to make that change. What I have learned, however, is that the change can only happen if you're willing to learn. So here's your opportunity. Let's start by understanding what our goal is, why we do what we do, the way we do our weight loss challenges, the way we run our weight loss marathon. It's not an actual running marathon. You'll see where that comes in. Okay, so forgive my drawing. I'm not a graphic designer, but this is just for illustration purposes. I want you to look at this body here, okay? The black lines are the skeleton on the inside. Then we've got the red lines, which are the muscles. And then we have the brown lines, which is the fat. Please take note that there is fat inside as well. Our bodies need a certain amount of fat to function properly. That's given. There has to be a little bit of fat there. You can't be fat-free, okay? You need the muscle mass. Why? Forget about gym. Forget about growing your muscles. Forget about looking like an athlete or a bikini model. Forget about all of those things. This is not what this is about. That's another kind of discipline entirely. That is not what I do with you. All you need to understand is 2 things. You need healthy muscle mass, just normal muscle mass, the one you developed as a child. It is responsible for keeping and maintaining the health of your skeleton. It helps keep all the joints where they're supposed to be. It helps support joint areas like our back. Our core supports our back. Muscles and ligaments are worked in daily movement and functional movement that supports healthy skeletal muscle. That is why it is called skeletal muscle. From an aesthetic perspective, what I mean is from an outer appearance perspective, we don't want to be carrying excess fat. Let's pretend that our fat is our fuel, which actually it is. Let's pretend, apart from body function, normal body function, excess fat or fat that we eat is our fuel. There are other sources, but let's talk about that for now. Fat is our fuel. Let's imagine that the skeleton, the muscle, is our engine. Our engine burns our fuel as we move. What happens if the engine gets too small and the fuel, we are drowning in fuel? We will start to grow fat. We need to maintain the amount of skeletal muscle that we have, the amount of muscle that we have, not gym, just that we have, by eating properly, by helping our bodies maintain it properly. This is what you learn on the marathon with me, okay? Through diet and then, of course, through exercise. Not major exercise, basic exercise. Okay, so we're looking for that. Somebody who is underweight, who looks really, really skinny, will have little bit of muscle on either side of their skeleton and a tiny little bit of fat on the outside of that. That is not a good place to be. If your muscle tone, or if you only have a tiny bit of muscle, if you start to eat incorrectly, that fat will grow and the engine will not be there to burn it. You need to make sure you maintain your muscle mass. This person has lost all of their muscle mass through poor nutrition, usually, okay? This person is somebody who's done exactly that. They still have a tiny bit of muscle mass, but now they've overeaten and their fat has grown on the outside. As you can see, they're going to struggle. That's a lot of people, and that's what we struggle to get through in the beginning. The more muscle mass we have, the bigger the engine, the more our metabolism is forced to start to pick up and fire on its own cylinders. And when that happens, we start to burn that muscle quite quickly. So what happens here, there's actually a picture that should be in between these two. Say somebody starts to develop, this is actually it's supposed to be a bit smaller, these muscles. It's more like this, okay? This person has grown their muscle mass through training, through healthy eating, through diet, through all of that. Not hectic training. It takes a lot to develop muscle mass through training. I'm just talking about healthy eating. Grown their muscle mass, and because their engine's bigger, they've managed to get rid of their fat again. But there's an in-between phase where somebody's muscles start to develop. The fat isn't necessarily burning as yet. It hasn't quite caught up. So that person may start to look bigger before they look smaller, but that's not the end of the world. Understand that phase for those of you who are maybe in that phase right now. This is also not necessarily healthy. I wouldn't put it as a healthy. Maintaining excessive muscle mass is really, really easy. It is not a natural state to be in. You have to do all sorts of things and potentially take all sorts of things to achieve this. It is an obsessive compulsive lifestyle, which if it works for you and if it suits you, this is not coming from a place of judgment. But please be very careful before you start making this your goal. Understand your body is not naturally designed to carry this amount of muscle mass. Please be clear on that. We are looking for stability. Anything outside of that, unfortunately, I wouldn't be the person. I could maybe point you in the right direction. It's not my goal to help women try to achieve this. Okay, I've done the bikini thing, not to this extent, but it is not a sustainable lifestyle. I don't put it into the healthy category. Okay, so that's kind of just understanding what's going on under the surface. Before I finish off on this, please understand there is something called visceral fat. We have organs inside our body, in our thoracic cavity, in this part of our body, and the fat that surrounds those organs and is in this area is called visceral fat. We do need a certain amount of visceral fat to protect our organs. But if this gets out of control, that is real health problem. That is real heart problems. That is clogged arteries. That is a real problem. And some of it can be hereditary. Some of it, 90% of it is, when it comes to visceral fat, is diet related. Cholesterol is hereditary, potentially 25%, 75% genetics, 25% diet. So cholesterol is something you can certainly manage with diet, but if you're predispositioned to it, it's something that you're going to have to manage potentially for the rest of your life. But that would be your medical practitioner's place to discuss that with you. Certainly not me, as I'm not qualified. Okay, so you now have an understanding of body shapes. I'm not interested in getting involved in ectomorph, endomorph, and so on and so forth. Because if you do the right thing and treat your body the right way for a long enough period of time, it will acclimatize to the way it's naturally supposed to be for you. And then we can start to analyze what kind of shape you may or may not be, what kind of things we need to start to accept about ourselves, etc., etc. Okay, so that's that element. Very few people live permanently at number 10 or at number 1. I would consider myself to be an above average healthy person in terms of my overall lifestyle. My life probably I spend my whole life probably at the moment between number 5 and number 10. Okay? I haven't really got descriptions for these. It's just a sliding scale from 5 to 10. But the majority of my life is probably spent somewhere between 8 and 9 or 8 and 9. So I might, let's say to break it down in a week, although it's not in a week, but I'm going to use it. Let's call it a 7-day cycle. I might spend 1 day at 10, 2 days at 9, 3 days at 8, 1 day at 5, 1 day at 7. Not necessarily in the order. So let's say it like this. So let's say on a Monday I decide, okay, it's weekends. It's a 7-day process. You shouldn't nosedive on a weekend, but the reason we, myself included, do generally is because that's when we have our downtime. And what do we do in our downtime? We socialize. We sit in front of the television because we have time to do it. We have popcorn. We have whatever. You can manage those choices. You can start to make different choices when you enjoy your downtime. It doesn't have to be all the way down to number 1. But that is where I will spend probably my number 5 and 6 over a weekend. I might have the odd night out during the week where we have dinner out or dinner out with friends or whatever the story is. And I might then have one of those nights, like say a 5 or a 6 during the week. The rest of my week will be spent between these times. Some weeks I might spend 4 days at number 10. Other weeks I might spend 4 days at number 8. But for the majority of my lifestyle, when I say majority, I mean 70-80% of my life, I spend up here in this region. And that's how I maintain my shape. I'm not permanently up here. No, I don't expect you to be either. Permanently. This is when we are talking about maintenance. Do I pick up weight if I spend too many days down here? 100%. Nobody's body can function eating the things we shouldn't be eating. So please don't be disillusioned by people who say that now that I'm at my body weight, I can eat whatever I like. I can eat. When I say I can eat whatever I like, I do eat whatever I like within reason. Not every single day and not all day. Without necessarily picking up weight. When I say picking up weight, my weight will fluctuate when I eat the wrong things. If I continue to do that. but then I just manage it by doing what I normally do. Okay,